It's pretty incredible in here. It's my first time. Amazing conference. That feature, were people excited about that feature that
Should we do
just talked
detach
about?
instance?
Should we do that?
Yeah, okay.
Okay, it's
We'll
good
put that on the
indication.
list, yeah.
We are here to talk about what it means to look beyond screens. We're going to talk about it in 3 segments. This is essentially us talking about the truth behind screens and our design process. We'll call that a journey for today. And finally, us opining on the future a bit.
Yeah, it's
right?
a crazy time.
Yeah, there's a lot there. We'll probably be wrong in about 4 years or so, but we'll share our thoughts today. So my name is Imran. I had the distinct pleasure of being able to work on some amazing form factors, conceptualizing, refining, and introducing new types of products into the world, like these. It's an amazing time, and really grateful for the time that I had there. You've probably seen some of these things. I left to go form a new company with my wife and CEO. We called it Humane, and that is where I met George.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I mean, the iPhone came out when I was in college, and
I'm not that old, mate.
no, I'm sorry. And just seeing what people were doing with this new platform, I think is what kind of drew me into design in the first place. So I worked a little bit at Facebook and Instagram, doing a bunch of cool and interesting things, and had a really great time just making stuff for the iPhone. So thanks for all your work. And then at some point, I got kind of bored designing apps, and I left Instagram and joined Imran and the rest of the amazing people at Humane that we are here on behalf of.
Amazing team. Here's some of the folks that are with us today and some of the folks that have moved on. Incredibly thankful and grateful for every single one of their contributions. And we're also looking for more people as well. So go to /jobs if you want to join us.
Nice plug.
It's amazing place to work.
Yes.
Let's get back to the topic. In terms of looking beyond screens, I want to introduce our key hero in this. This is our explorer. He's going to be dressed in yellow, and you'll see them from time to time as we go through this.
There's a lot of screens.
There's a lot of screens.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is kind of what it feels like for some people. Maybe a bit of an exaggeration, but let's get to the straightforward talk here. There's a cultural conversation that's going on right now about the impact, the new behaviors that have been emerging through the coexistence of screens. This is a conversation that has really rung alarm bells. We've got the surgeon, a very hot topic. The Surgeon General of the US here has actually issued a bunch of statements about emotional health, which is alarming, right?
Yep.
It's something that gets stronger day to day. And that's because our coexistence with screens is something that we can't escape. This is the world's most powerful and understandable computer.
Yeah.
It just happens to be attached to a phone that we carry along with us. And, I think there is something to be said about what coexistence feels like.
Yeah, screens are great. You can do a lot with them, but if we all take a moment to enjoy this relaxing situation and just soak it in a little bit.
Just a moment of peace here, I think would be good. Yeah. And then
the inevitable happens.
Yeah, it does. Something like this.
And you don't really have a choice. And I think that's one of the biggest themes here today is that you don't have a choice but to look at a screen to use a computer these days. And this is what screens are being used for. It's not the screens themselves that are bad. It's that they're just kind of used to distract and to take your attention and to pull you into them for as long as possible. Yeah,
the way we like to think about it is, computers are just really complex, and there's certain things that you can't control about them. I liken that to you getting on a plane and you think you're going across the country and you think it's going to be a pretty chill ride. But the actual truth is, using a computer today feels like you're the pilot, you're in charge of taking off, you're the air traffic control as well.
And it's your only mode of transportation.
Yeah, and you got to land it as well. For us, we think that it could feel like this. There's just a level of freedom and awareness that's very different.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about the journey. I think having a vision of something better really involves knowing how to get there. And if it's an ambitious vision, it means crossing the chasm. And that is something that our explorer is about to do. It certainly is something that we did when we started Humane. We looked into the future and took a bit of a bet as to where the world was going. And that started with this. This was our vision from 2017 for a new type of computer that would have these new types of sensors that would allow for a new way for you to interact with compute. One that goes beyond keyboards, mice, and touchscreens, but actually understands context, uses AI to be able to understand and interpret and really guide you through the day, really enable a new way to compute. And that was really the goal here, was to really look at what is the new form factor for compute that would enhance and give you a new type of presence and a level of freedom. This is a positioning graph that we use to really understand on the scales of freedom and presence, where do existing form factors sit today? You can see the desktop is anchored in the bottom left there, and things progressively try to make their way into the corner there. The speaker, smart speaker, if you will, is all the way in the top left, and that is pretty great. You can talk to it while you're chopping onions in the kitchen, but you're not taking it anywhere. And that is where something like AI Pin comes in. It is uniquely positioned because of its form factor to be something you can take with you and has a level of context and understanding, but it has this AI-driven OS that really brings in a level of automation and freedom.
Yeah. I like to think of it as like a new canvas. I think when you're creating something, the canvas really dictates so much of what you can create and what is possible. And sometimes in order to make something new, you need to make a wholly new canvas to do something different.
Absolutely. And so we started with a mock-up. This is our first mock-up model here. When building hardware, you want to really have a good sense of what's going to feel right. This had all the delineations for input and sensors that we were able to really rally around. And it became kind of like our North Star amongst the constellations of other things that we could imagine that would be good to really shove into this new type of computer.
A lot of unknowns.
A lot of unknowns, yeah, and very disparate. You're absolutely right. Bringing them together was something that we really had to figure out. And we started with technology.
What's that?
It's a banana.
How many calories?
A banana has about 105 calories.
Super primitive, but so critical for how we needed to really convince ourselves that we could teach a computer to see and really replace your interactions, because we really wanted it to be hands-free and eyes-free. We then used that as the confidence behind going off and enumerating what type of hardware we would need to enable such an experience. And we came up with this. This is something that has all the optics and working
We should have just shipped that. We could have shipped it so much sooner.
Yeah, we could have been done. Has a bunch of cables attached to it as well. This is what you do with it.
And you wear it just like this. You can see why we call it Iron Man. It hangs right on your chest.
Very comfy.
I mean, I think I would have had a lot less gray hairs if we just stopped right there. But this enabled us to actually start building software, which is really critical. When you're building things like this, you've got a bunch of parallel processes. And so we started to build software while we were building the hardware. And where we ended up was this form factor. I'm wearing it right now. It has, and so are you. It's got this optical sensor capsule here, and then it has a truss light that's uniquely attached to the device through a privacy MCU to make sure that there's never any funny business when you're using it. it also has a unique, very distinct profile. And this is so that it can really understand and share your field of view. Let me show you what that looks like in comparison to other computers. So you could be obviously traveling through the world and understanding objects like this through the use of your smartphone, but it introduces a barrier between you and the world around you. You could also attach it onto a smartwatch.
It doesn't look very comfortable either.
Yeah, and it might get you into trouble in certain countries as well. And obviously, you could attach it to a glasses form factor as well. Introduces a level of another barrier between you and the world around you. AI Pin is very different. It's essentially something that turns the world into your interface, not your screen, and essentially overlaps with your native field of view at an intersection without getting in the way. It's also a clothing-based wearable that really gives you a field of view that feels like this. This is Bethany wearing it, and you get a good sense of just how much the device can see when you're wearing it. It's pretty cool.
What I love about the form factor is that it doesn't really ask much of you. It's technology that kind of adapts to you versus forcing you to adapt to it.
Yeah.
And a lot of these other form factors really make you change something about the way you live your life.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't good enough for our Explorer, right?
Yeah, they seem interested.
So they're off to the darkness, the abyss, to go find out what else is out there. Really going in back to those constellations, bits and bobs that we had to figure out how they come together.
So many things we could talk about. We could fill an hour probably, but we'll just focus on a couple of them today. And one of them being input. How do you input things into AI Pin?
So input is something that's really unique. We used a lot of the sensors to understand hand geometries so that we could really replace the screen, if you will. Make it something that is transient, comes and goes as you need it. So the way AI Pen works is when you need to have some level of control or some disambiguation, you just present your hand in front of it and the display arrives. And when you put your hand down, it's gone.
Yeah, and with a new display like this, designing software for something that doesn't really exist involved a lot of prototyping and building places and things that we can use to simulate this. So this is a very ugly prototype. I think I made this the second week I was at Humane. But this evolved into a pretty robust prototyping platform that we built inside of Origami Studio that allowed us to simulate everything, the hand, the device, the LEDs, the touchpad, and we could use this to iterate again while these other things are being figured out. At one point, once the hardware matured a little bit, we actually got Figma up and running on the laser, which was pretty great for just seeing screens on your hand. The laser is a pretty unique kind of display that doesn't match what you would see on your screen. And so this was a huge moment to unlock the ability to rapidly iterate on visuals.
Yeah, absolutely. Key part of our process. Thank you, Figma team, for making that happen. And then we got it working.
Yeah, and we actually got touch working first, which was interesting.
Yeah. This is an oversimplification of the amount of work that went in to make this work.
It's a lot of work to fit in 25 minutes. But the original input method for AI Pin with the display was touch. And we actually went super deep exploring what an operating system like this could look like. And it got to the point where we were starting to debate, where do we put the back button? How do we deal with experience navigation? All of these things that just felt like problems that we were bringing with us from our current interfaces.
Yeah, kind of old world problems. Where we landed was really leaning into the strengths of the dimensional sensing capability to really create fresh, new, one-handed ways to interact.
The laser is one input path, obviously. Another really important one is voice. And that was really dictated by the AI capabilities that we had. Again, as you all know, AI is such a fast-moving industry. Things were changing constantly.
Yeah. We started exploring this actually very early on. I had fed models a bunch of messages that I had from Bethany, just to understand how much personalization could come through with it. And then after that,
Yeah.
we started to really experiment what a search interface might look like, being able to answer questions and making sure that they're appropriate in terms of responses.
Yeah, I dived into this stuff at the beginning of 2022. This was well before ChatGPT, and at the time, these models were really, marketed as these like text generation models. And it became apparent to me as I was like playing with this new material that there was some real understanding here.
Yeah.
And so my prototyping got out of the playground and into Python, where again, one of the things we wanted to do was this thing should be able to answer any question you have. And we felt like that might be really hard, and it was good to explore that and see if we could do it. And so this evolved into a Slack prototype that I unleashed upon the company, which was very fun and very enlightening. There was a pretty crazy moment that happened where one of my coworkers asked Thinker a question in Chinese, and it answered the correct answer in Chinese. And for me, normally when you're prototyping, there is a line where you can't cross that line or the prototype will break. And this was the first time I'd made a prototype that had features in it that I didn't know were there. And it was a really crazy moment of understanding that what it means for a computer to actually understand you.
Yeah, it was pretty wild. I think what we realized back at that point is that we had a bunch of these pieces that we were exploring.
Some cool stuff down there.
Yeah, there is some really cool stuff there. Our explorer's in the belly of the abyss right now, and we then were able to pick these things up and bring them all together.
Yeah, and this allowed us to simplify the experience into this demo we call Big Demo, which we prototyped the entire operating system here, and you just ask for what you want and you get it. And this is Josh Dickens on our design team using this prototype, and it was a really big moment for us to see that, like, yeah, you don't really need all this navigation and all these buttons. You can just ask for what you want and get it. In a screen-based interface world, you're really locked in this single intent to action framework where no matter what, you can really only use one app at a time or push one button at a time. And we like to think of AI Pin as a contextual interface that really allows you to take in a bunch of things, language, context, vision, and have a bunch of actions come out the other side of it.
Yeah, these multimodal elements, both in terms of input as well as what the AI models can do with them, become really interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty wild that these models allow us to fluidly go between English to Japanese to an image to JSON to a semantic embedding. And that fluidity, I think, is what really enables some pretty great things. You want to get a ride to dinner. In a screen-based world, that's a lot of tasks. That's a lot of things you need to do in a very specific order to get to the intent that you want to get to. And our hope is that with a contextual interface, one day you'll be able to just say that, and we'll just get you straight to the thing that you want to do.
Incredibly easy, especially when you think about more complex tasks, right?
Yeah, looking at a poster on the street and remembering to buy tickets, but also wanting to send it to your friend, also a lot of steps. And if you had a contextual interface that could do some of that work for you, you can just say what you want and get it.
Yeah. All of this is made possible by a new kind of operating system that we call Cosmos. It works both on device as well as in the server. We have an AI architecture in the cloud to really bring all this stuff together. You can pipe in data directly, APIs, and really just the broader internet as a whole. It essentially gave us the pieces to say, we've got the makings of something that we could put together and really
come out of that chasm.
Come out and deliver upon the world. And so that's what we did with AI Pen. This is the unboxing. I'll show you what that looked like here.
It's got some capabilities. You can ask about food. You can translate, which is really powerful, capture moments. And this was part of our launch video. And how did the launch go? The launch went pretty smoothly, right?
The launch was amazing. It was the feedback that was a little tough.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, yeah.
A lot of very valid feedback. Making something new is not easy. making something that's never been done before, you're always going to have issues and things that come up, especially as such a small company that we are. It's just hard.
Yeah.
And so for our Explorer, what choice do they have, really?
You know, this is something where I think when we're all building something new, building new things is hard for sure. That feedback, it really can be hard to process. Our team, along with this Explorer, really took the feedback to heart, was incredibly resilient in terms of turning it around, and we were able to come out of it releasing a new version, which we just put out this past week, that really directly addresses all points of feedback, and the feedback has been really resounding from people that are using it. We've got comments like these, plus things that we hear on a personal level from customers that reach out to all of us.
Yeah.
It's been amazing to have gone this far. Even still, though,
There's still one that we keep hearing.
there's one piece of feedback that you just can't escape. I'm hoping for anybody that's stuck on so far that this is pretty clear.
Yeah, we should dive in anyway, just
let's dive
to
in.
make it extra clear.
To really understand why an app isn't what this is because if we take a look at the way computers have been architected and the multiple layers
So
all
many
the way
layers of
up.
software.
Yeah, and they all feed up to this graphical user interface logic that really requires a keyboard, mouse, and touchscreen to input and to really create a space for the computer to understand.
Yeah.
Let's walk back to how computers first
How did we get
understood.
here?
Yeah.
When computers were first introduced, it was a very manual process. You were plugging things in. You had to be a really specialized
Operator, yeah.
to use these things. And we introduced punch cards, which helped a bit to abstract some of this stuff away. We created software, but still not super approachable.
No.
We added a keyboard. We thought, hey, maybe you could talk to a computer. That would be cool, but you had to know a very special set of things to say to get the computer to do what you wanted it to do.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until the moment after this where things really took off.
Until 40 years ago, happy birthday to the Mac, that you actually were able to have a dialogue and you were actually able to draw more than just an XOR line, curves, and just really be very expressive to the computer. And this changed once again when the computer left the office, the desktop, and went into your pocket. And you were really able to do some amazing things through direct manipulation or touch. And it really democratized things for just about everybody.
Yeah, and from there we really just had an explosion of software, going from mobile apps to web apps, desktop apps, to today where there's just so many interfaces that you interact with on a daily basis. It's gotten a little out of hand, I feel.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you can ask yourself, do we really need more apps?
Yeah. What do you think? Do we?
I think if computers stay the same, there's really only one thing to do. I mean, apps are the input. But if we actually go back and say, what if we changed that upper layer to be more AI-based, to actually understand context, to be able to dynamically build UIs based on what you're asking for or what the interaction is meant to be or should be in those moments, things can change.
Yeah, we see this as a curve of, as technology progresses, the cost and effort of doing things inevitably decreases slowly and then, zero out eventually. And we think we're on that next step here with computer interaction.
Yeah, and this happens a lot.
Yeah, it used to be you could only walk places, and that was very hard and expensive. Horses were a little better. Trains were pretty good.
Yeah.
Cars definitely democratized transportation a bit, but what's the fastest way to get anywhere these days? Anybody? Anybody? No? Huh?
That's right. Zoom.
Yeah.
Zoom is absolutely the fastest
You
way.
can teleport yourself into someone's home for free.
Yeah.
And this happens a lot with a lot of different industries. We're seeing this right now with image creation, that we're going from painting to prompting, information distribution from manuscripts to the internet where people can post anything they want, music sharing. This happens over and over again.
Yeah.
And it's not always great. There's certainly trade-offs with this stuff.
Yeah, I think through progress, sometimes things change. In the case of music, while we're talking about it, streaming doesn't necessarily favor the artist in terms of what they get compared to what happens when people actually own music.
Yeah.
And so that's something I think we always need to take into account as we go through progression.
Yeah, but back to this particular curve, the interesting thing about this is that if we make it easier to use software, because we use software to make software, we inherently make it easier to make software,
Yeah.
which is pretty exciting. And so there's one more curve that we think we're on the edge of, is this new level of programming where the cost and effort of making software approaches zero.
Yeah, and you start to go from this world that we once knew as being WYSIWYG, to which is what you say is what you get, to what you say is what you get.
Yeah.
And that is kind of where we think things are going.
Yeah.
So for us, this is the future of compute. So if you imagine a contextual environment where you have a plant, in this case a bonsai, and you walk up to it and you ask a question like, what do I need to, or when do I need to add fertilizer to this? You can get a concise answer from your AI that'll say 3 days. And you can laser in if you want to get a little bit more information at that point. But what if you want to actually do something else?
Yeah.
You could ask to do something like you don't have in terms of a feature, like I'd like to track my supply usage. At that point, the way we think about it, dynamically and remotely, we could remotely update software based on that, create new software features just through context, which is pretty powerful.
You just made software, just with your voice.
That's pretty amazing, dude.
Pretty great. And obviously, you know, we're not saying that everyone's going to make all their software from scratch, the same way that like books and newspapers and TV still have a place today in the internet age. But wouldn't it be great if we all had a lot more choice with the kind of software we use?
Yeah.
You can kind of think about it like used to be when you wanted to watch TV. I'm going to age myself now for the room. This was the way you did it. You had to plan your whole day around the video you wanted to watch and the channels you were offered. And if it wasn't there, too bad. You don't get to watch it. Going from that to something like this, which has nearly infinite content and a lot of amazing stuff that just wouldn't get made for TV, it seems pretty great.
Yeah, absolutely. And this changes the level of accessibility. Just about everyone can really broadly not only access, but could also be a broadcaster as well.
Yeah, and so when we think about what developing for the AI pin might be like, I think we're really excited to make that for regular people to control their hardware. Just last week, our friends at Anthropic released Artifacts, and I used it to make this software, this hypothetical software in the example, and it made the whole thing for me with one prompt. And so this isn't some like very far distant future. This is truly here today, and we're just missing a couple pieces to plug that together to make it something great. So.
And the benefits here are really just the level of automation, the ability to actually create what you want without actually being beholden to sitting behind a screen and really laboring over it. Yeah. And for us, looking beyond screens essentially means getting a little bit of our humanity back. And that's what really matters to us. So if you go in and you start to imagine what a world looks like where these kinds of compute operations are no longer a barrier between you and the experience, you can see families researching the world together. You can see memories that are recalled to create experiences that just wouldn't have happened otherwise. And you can see a reliving of moments that probably would have been hard to remember.
Yeah.
This transition from the information age to what we call the intelligence age is really the thing that drives us. And we put a small film together that we'd like to share with you now.
Yeah. Our sun is rising as oceans bring good tidings. Dear children of the earth, remember we are human. The universe has spoken, living in the moment.
Thank you all so much. We're excited to build with you.